Hi everyone, welcome to Blarney Castle and Gardens and this week's episode. And I want to show you some of my favourite trees on the estate. And what most visitors don't realise when they're coming in is that we have over 2,000 trees actually tagged on our database. So trying to narrow it down to a few is going to be interesting, but I'm kind of going to show you 12 of ones that I think are certainly noteworthy. There's actually 16 because there's two groups of 3, but anyway. And this is going to be a whistle-stop tour, give you a few ideas of what's here, and hopefully when you do come in, you can come and look for some of these particular trees. So I'm starting here. We're right at the main entrance, and this is one of the best cherry trees in Ireland as far as I'm concerned. So it's Prunus Chirote, and you'll see the low spreading canopy. This is an absolute showstopper in March when it's in flower. Large white clusters of flowers, and Paul, our social media manager, is filming today, so I'm going to set him a little challenge to splice in a photograph here of the tree when it's in full flower, just to really show its magnificence. But it also has autumn colour, which is an added bonus, but I mean really, you know, as a spring feature it's hard to beat. We don't have to go far for the next trees. That's the first group of 3, which are actually up above the cherry, and it shows it in context for size. These are Douglas firs, Pseudotsuga menzesii, possibly around 100 years old, but I'm going to walk over there and just show you them with me underneath them for scale. Okay. So as I get closer, you'll get a sense of proportion. And whenever I give garden tours, this is the spot that I actually start in, because once you've seen them, it's hard to unsee them, but most of our visitors don't even notice them because their focus is arriving, getting in, going across the bridge, heading to the castle. And so I find if I point out to a group, these trees are here, then for the rest of the tour, they're actually looking up and looking for the trees. So Pseudotsuga menzesii probably date to the 1900s, and having 3 together as a group is wonderful. But right through the estate with these well-established, you know, centenary plus age trees, which really give the estate, I suppose, a sense of longevity and a backbone to our tree collection. And we're still planting trees to this day right through the estate. We've just added to our cherry walk. So from next spring, hopefully, if all goes according to plan, we'll have, I suppose we're approaching 100 different cherry trees now in the collection through a walk, which over the years will obviously establish and get better. So anyway, that gets me started, and what we're going to do now is literally pop around the estate, stopping off at different points and showing you some of the trees that I think are, well, certainly noteworthy. Thanks. We're now in our lower rock close, just along the river here, and I'm standing next to our 3 wise men, and you'll see why we call them that, but they're certainly some of the oldest trees on the estate, and they're yew trees, native yew trees. Estimates put them at even up to as old as 600 years. It's very difficult to age a yew tree, but you'll see if Paul pans up the spread of this tree and the size of it, and I'll just show you the group as well. So there's 3 of them here on the island between the 2 rivers, and they're all low spreading with this wide kind of growth habit. And if Paul pans around as I'm walking, I can show you this, the roots, the buttress of the roots. This thing's been here forever, and you know, if we respect these things, they'll be here long after we're gone. But we also, you know, have to consider things like visitor impact, and we fenced off this area because the ground was getting compacted. There was nearly no growth at all around them, and the trees were in effect being killed by love, by attention, by people climbing on them for photographs, and by just pushing people back from the base of the trees and giving them a little bit of TLC, they've actually improved. They've become greener, and you can see by all the plant life around me, it's all recovered very nicely. I'm now going to bring you to show you another yew tree that's on the upper area of the rock close and is said to be even older than these. This one has a special story too. Now this is my favourite tree on the estate, and hopefully you can see why. It's called the Witch's Yew, so it has a story. This being Blarney, a lot of things have stories. Said to be over 600 years old. You can see the way it sits on top of this outcrop of limestone, and it's actually hard to tell where the roots finish and the limestone begins. You'd see it coming through here, out here, and it's a fabulous tree in itself. It was the Irish Tree of the Year 2019, hence the plaque. But this tree also covers what is our witch's kitchen, which is said to be the home of the Blarney witch. And if Paul looks inside shortly in a second, you'll see there's actually a working fireplace as well. And this is part of the Rock Close Gardens, which were built in the 1750s and are very much a part of the Blarney experience. And many people visiting this area liken it to something out of Harry Potter or Narnia, but the tree in itself is what creates the magic, and all around us there's large numbers of mature yew trees. Certainly one of the best collections in Ireland, and therefore this is one of the best yew trees in Ireland. So my favourite tree on the estate. Now at the entrance to our Pineatum, I wanted to show you something a little bit younger but also a lot older, because this is a Willimi Pine from Australia, and until 1994 it was only actually known from the fossil records. So literally a tree from, I suppose, the Jurassic era or something, a dinosaur tree in effect. And it was discovered, or rediscovered if you like, by a man called David Noble, who was out hiking in a remote region of the Willimi National Park, and he came across these strange trees that he didn't recognise. So he brought some samples back, and long story short, he'd discovered a new species, and it was named a Willimi Pine. And it's now grown all over the world in, I suppose, botanic collections and private gardens. And it's, suppose, been in this location now, it's about 9 years since we planted it. And you can see it really likes it. We've 3 in the Pineatum, and they're all doing very well. The Pineatum has a collection of over 200 rare and unusual conifer species. So another one well worth a look if you've even a slight interest in trees. But I'm excited to see how big this one actually gets with us. We're jumping now from a young introduction in the gardens to what's an old veteran. Behind me here is a Piscea Sichensis, a Sitka spruce, and it's the tallest tree on the estate. You can see it on the skyline, the approach into Blarney, around 45 metres, and if Paul pans up you'll get hopefully the scale. In Ireland they don't generally get that big because it's often planted as a commercial forestry tree and harvested long before. So it's great to see one that's I suppose allowed to reach its potential. I'm going to show you a couple more of my favourite larger trees on the estate now as well. This is one of 2 western red cedars that I want to show you on the estate. This one I'm showing you just for its sheer colossal size. So it's Theo Piccata, so western North America really is its native homeland. Probably only 140, 150 years old, but look at the size of the thing. If Paul pans up while I'm talking, you'll get a sense of the scale. It's Very popular timber tree used in construction, etc., because of its strength, and you can see why it needs to be strong. These trees are massive. They particularly like our climate and the Scottish climate. I've seen bigger ones as well. But people look at this tree and you'd think it was hundreds of years old, but it's just the sheer speed at which they grow as well, which is so impressive. So we'll carry on. You can see me looking up at this impressive specimen, which is our largest beech tree, and estimates, well, probably in excess of 300 years old. It's a veteran and it is massive. Trees like this are an ecosystem in themselves and support a huge range of wildlife, but just for sheer impressive volume, I suppose this is number 2 in my tree list for favourites on the estate. And again, you can see why. Absolute monster. Very quick honorary mention, I suppose, for this, which is the Irish champion Japanese maple tree, Acer palmatum. Probably dates to the 1880s, 1890s, when the mansion was constructed. We're up here on the Belgian beds, and we've missed the autumn colour, but I'm going to come out and show you because it's spectacular, and you can see some of the leaf colours I've just picked up on the ground from the final drop. Shades of really yellows through to deep reds with all the shades of orange in between. So fabulous tree, and we have a great Acer collection here of different maples, but that's definitely one of the best. Great tree for a smaller garden. This is really about as big as they get with us anyway. Acer Grissium, paperback maple. And what's interesting about this particular one is the peeling bark that you can see all over it. And when the light shines through this, especially the low, I suppose, winter sunlight, it actually glows. And if Paul wants to come in a bit closer, he can zoom in and you can see how paper thin the bark is and the effects that you kind of get with the light shining through. So a fabulous smaller tree. Some of the trees I've been showing you are definitely not suitable for the small urban gardens, but this one would be fine. Personal introduction, this one, because this is Aeschylus Wangyai from northern Vietnam, and this one's about 4 years old, and I collected the seed myself from halfway up a mountain. We've been over in Vietnam 4 times now collecting seeds and plant hunting with help of some of the guys in the Vietnamese Institute of Horticulture, and we have a project going on which is really about ex situ and in situ conservation. So we're growing a lot of specimens of different endangered species here in the gardens, and the Aeschylus here is one of them, and you can see this one in the Belgian beds is putting on good growth and seems to be doing particularly well, so I'm delighted with that. One more tree to go. Last and by no means least is our second western red cedar, Theo Piccata, and this one's affectionately known as the elephant tree, and you can see why if I move back a bit. It's probably one of, if not the most photographed tree in Ireland, and most normal Theo Piccatas have this rough bark all over them. But you can see this particular specimen, all of this is worn smooth. And this has been worn smooth by the passage of probably tens of thousands of bottoms at this stage, all posing for a photograph. And there's a lovely little robin there just come to join me. But again, an immense size, probably only 140, 50 years old maximum. And the strength required just to hold up these types of things is just unbelievable, and you can see why it's so popular as a timber tree for construction. But I suppose this one would be number 3 in my list of favourite trees. So I hope that gave you, a general idea of some of the specimens around. As I say, over 2,000 listed specimens on the estate, so it's considerably difficult to choose what would be the best, but that's given you a range. And there's a lovely walk trying to retrace the steps we've done today, just following that and looking for these particular trees. So hopefully when you're in, you'll at least be able to find some of them. And thanks very much.